Hello students, welcome back. In the last session we have discussed web pages and web content. In today's session we will discuss web client and web server. So let's start. Web client. So what is web client? A web client is a program capable of communicating with web servers, requesting and receiving information from them, and processing it for display or other users. So a web client, you can say it is a program which communicates with the web server. It requests for some resource or information from them, and it processes it and displays it. So that is a web client. As we know, the web technology or the web itself, it is based on the principle or the model, that is client server model. We have a client, we have a server. Client always requests, server always responds with the requested resource. So web client, particularly, as it is said, it is a program which communicates with the server and receives information, requests and receives information from it. Even a web client can be to the web browser or mobile device. So web client can also be referred as web browser. Means, if you look at the first definition, it is a program which is capable of communicating with a web server. So web browser is one program which is capable of communicating with a web server. By using a web browser, we can send a request to the web server for a particular web page. For example, if I want to view a Facebook page, then what I do? I open a browser, I type the URL facebook.com and I simply press a button. So web browser sends a request to Facebook server, and Facebook server returns the Facebook page, and that is displayed on my web browser. A browser displays the page. So you can say a web browser as a web client. Okay, refer to extensions, helper applications, enhance the browsers to support special from the website. So web client may also refer to other extensions and helper applications which are installed in the browser itself. So in general, you can say a web browser as a web client. Okay, what is a browser then? We already know about browser. We use so many browsers today to browse internet. A browser is simply a web browser, or you can simply call it as a browser used to access and view websites. So by using a web browser, you can access the websites. You can see you use Google Chrome to access Facebook, Gmail, Twitter, and so many other websites today. Okay, some of the web given below, their symbols are given at least. You can guess the name of those browsers. You can see the first is Opera, Google Chrome, then we have then this is a Brave browser. Can you guess the last two? Just check it out, which are the last two. And the last second, this is the recent one. Find it out which are the last two browsers. Okay, I ended up to know how this web client and web server communicates. So in general, as I've said, we have a client technology. So you can see a client machine here and machine, and on the client machine we have a client, and generally it is termed as a web browser. It is referred as a web browser also. So what web browser does is to the server machine. On the server machine we have, this is also a program, web server, and upon receiving a request from the client's a response back to the client. And what the web browser does, it simply displays that information on the screen. Okay, so this is about web client. Let us move to the next slide. And web server. So what is a web server? As I've said, web server, it is also an application or a program, you can say. Web server, computer web content is stored. Web server is used to host web, but there exist other web also, such as gaming servers, FTP, that is file transfer, email. So web server, you can say it is a computer where the web content is stored. In the last diagram you can see we have over here a server. Yes, it is a computer. It is a computer where the web pages or web documents are stored. All the web documents, even in case of your Facebook pages, web pages, you have a login page of Facebook, you have a Facebook home page. There are so many other pages in Facebook. All these pages are stored in a special computer with a special software, and that is the web server. So it stores all these things, and whenever we request for it, it will send those pages back. Okay, there are other, like we have a gaming server which provides you can play online games on some gaming servers. Storage, you can store your files, it is not only viewing the web pages, but you can store your files, your documents online today on the cloud. So we have a cloud storage web servers. File transfer, it is also a web server. Email, to send emails, that is also a web server. And there are many other servers. A web server is a program that is hypertext transfer protocol. The files that from web pages to you in response to other requests which are forwarded by their computers, HTTP clients. Terms, you can even say a web server, it is a program. It is a program which runs the server computer. See, there is a computer server, a server computer, you might be knowing this is a bit different from our personal computer. Server computers have capabilities, additional memory, high memory, you can say more storage, high end processor and all. So that is a server computer. On server computer you may have a web server, a program running on it. So you can say web server is a program that uses HTTP to serve the files. Now web server generally uses the HTTP protocol, hypertext transfer protocol, to transfer files or send web pages to the users. As we know, users send, or the client sends a request by using a HTTP protocol to the web servers. Web server, upon receiving a request, sends the web pages by using HTTP protocol back to the client. Okay, there are so many web servers available today. Some of the web servers are given are shown below. You can say we have server, we have Apache Tomcat, we have one more important, that is IIS by Microsoft. Okay, so to host all the Microsoft or ASP.NET pages, we use IIS. There is XAMPP, we have WAMP, we have so many other servers today available. On these web servers, we have to store all our web pages to be accessed by the clients. Okay, this is about the web server. Next, working of web server, as I've already told you about the working. So, you can say web servers are programs, like it behaves like a slave programs. Slave programs, in the sense, they only act when you ask for something to it. Means web server only reacts when the client sends a request to it. Okay, web to the client request in either of the following. First, sending the file related with the requested URL. Second, response by invoking a script database. So when a client sends a request, a web server may respond in two ways. The first way, which we have already studied also, that is static web page and dynamic web page. If the request from the client is for static web page, the file is its line associated with the requested URL. The file itself is sent back to the client. But if it is a dynamic, is for dynamic web page, then a script and communicating with the database. The response is generated by executing some script and also by communicating with a backend database. And whatever the response is generated, that is sent back to the client. And the same has been shown in the diagram also. You can see the web client to the web server. Web server, upon receiving response back. Again, the web server, if it is dynamic page, then server access the data which is stored in a data store, that is databases, and from the database it is by the web server, and that is included in the web page, and it is sent back to the communicate with other servers. You can see here we have an application which contains web container, other services, and application data store. In turn may connect to many other servers, remember, because if I am requesting for a particular resource to the web server sometimes may not have that resource. In such cases, a web server may generate another request to other web servers, application servers, for to get that resource. Okay, we will discuss about those in detail even in the next sessions about this. So key points are: when the web server search for the request to be found, then it will send it to the client with a HTTP. If the requested web page is not found, an HTTP response, error not found. See, if a web page which a client is requesting do not exist on the web server returns an error with the error code 404 not found. Many a times we access internet, we use web to access certain web pages, and many a time we type some URLs which do not exist, and in that case we get an error message like 404 page not found. So such error messages even you might have got many times while browsing. If for some other resources, then the server will contact to the application server constructed to construct the HTTP response. So if a client has requested for some other resource, server may in turn generate a request to application server or some other servers to get information from there. Okay, so this is about the working of web server. With this we will stop here today. Thank you.